Hey, world decoders. Imagine a border where cartels wield drones, migrants face deadly risks, and tensions threaten to explode. Is the US-Mexico border turning into a war zone in 2025? Or is this chaos being orchestrated for control? Today, we're diving into the data, the conspiracies, and the human cost to uncover the truth. From skyrocketing violence to migration surges, the stakes are higher than ever. Stick around, because what we're about to reveal might change how you see this crisis forever. Let's start with a chilling number: 3,000 deaths. That's how many lives the cartels have claimed this year alone. But what's driving this bloodshed, and why is it getting worse? Let's break it down. Key point 1. Cartel violence escalation. The Council on Foreign Relations reports 3,000 cartel-related deaths in 2025, a 20% spike from last year. The Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels are locked in a brutal turf war over drug and human trafficking routes. These groups aren't just using guns. Cartels now deploy drones to smuggle fentanyl and attack rivals, making the border deadlier than ever. Here's a shocking stat. Since 2006, Mexico's drug war has killed over 460,000 people, and 2025 is on track to set new records. But there's a twist. Some say the US is fueling this chaos. Posts point out that 70% of traced firearms in Mexico come from the US, with 135,000 guns trafficked in 2022 alone. Are lax US gun laws deliberately stoking the violence? Or is this just a tragic oversight? If cartels are thriving, why are millions risking their lives to cross the border? Is this a humanitarian crisis, or something more calculated? Hold that thought. You won't believe what's driving these numbers. Key point 2. Migration surge and exploitation. The UN reports a 15% surge in migration, with 2.1 million border encounters in 2024, and 2025 is even worse. Violence, poverty, and climate change in Guatemala, Honduras, and Venezuela are pushing families north. But the journey is a nightmare. Cartels exploit migrants, using color-coded bracelets to track payments and kidnapping thousands for ransom. Posts describe horror stories of families held hostage, with smugglers charging up to $10,000 per person. Border towns like Tijuana and Juarez are overwhelmed, with local economies buckling under the strain. Some argue US policies, like the revived Remain in Mexico program, trap migrants in these dangerous zones, benefiting cartels. Could this chaos be intentional, or is it just a system failing under pressure? Here's where it gets wild. What if the US is orchestrating this crisis for control? The theories are spreading like wildfire, and they're raising serious questions. Let's dive in. Key point 3. Staged crisis theories. Posts are buzzing with claims that the US is stoking border chaos to justify intervention. Former President Trump's 2025 emergency declaration, deploying 8,500 active duty troops, and his 25% tariffs on Mexican goods have escalated tensions. Some users argue these moves, along with US drone strikes on fentanyl labs, are designed to paint Mexico as a failed state, paving the way for military action or tighter control. Historically, the US has intervened in Latin America, think Panama or Guatemala, so the theory isn't new. Mexico, the US's largest trading partner, with $1.8 trillion in annual trade, is critical to the economy, yet CFR notes strained diplomatic ties. Is this a power grab disguised as border security, or just tough policy gone wrong? If the border's a war zone, can diplomacy save the day, or are we past the point of no return? The answer might shock you. Stay tuned. Key point 4. Diplomatic and policy failures. US-Mexico relations are at a low point. Since 2020, Mexico has restricted US law enforcement operations, especially after the controversial arrest of General Cienfuegos. Mexico's hugs, not bullets strategy under AMLO failed to curb cartels, and President Sheinbaum's 2025 talks with the US are stalling. Cartels are stepping up, using drones to outmaneuver authorities, while Trump's policies, like a 90% drop in crossings in February 2025, prioritize optics over solutions. The UN's Los Angeles Declaration pushes for regional migration fixes, but progress is slow. Users criticize both nations for political posturing, with 60% saying leaders care more about votes than lives. Is this diplomatic failure fueling the crisis, or are cartels just too powerful? Beyond the politics, real people are suffering. Migrants, border communities, and even soldiers. What's the true cost of this crisis, and can we stop it? Let's find out. Key point 5. Human toll and economic strain. The human cost is staggering. Migrants face death or exploitation, with 1,200 reported deaths in 2024 crossing the border. Border towns like El Paso see 30% spikes in homelessness, per local reports. As resources dwindle, the US spends $20 billion annually on border security, yet cartels earn $13 billion from trafficking. Per D estimates, Mexico's economy, reliant on US trade, loses $50 billion yearly to violence. Posts highlight community despair, with 70% of border residents feeling unsafe. Solutions like addressing root causes, poverty, violence, climate change, or regulating U.S. gun exports could help, but political will is lacking. Is the focus on walls and troops missing the real problem? What happens if this crisis spirals into open conflict? The future of the border is at stake, and the next moves could change everything. Stay with us. Key point 6. Future risks and solutions. Looking to 2030, two paths emerge. If cartels gain more power, drone attacks and violence could escalate, potentially drawing U.S. military intervention. Ex-posts fear a new Afghanistan. Alternatively, regional cooperation, like expanding the Los Angeles Declaration or investing $10 billion in Central America's development, could stabilize migration flows. Regulating the 70% of U.S.-sourced guns fueling cartels is another fix, but faces NRA opposition. The IMF warns unchecked violence could cut Mexico's GDP by 5%. Without bold action, the border could become a permanent flashpoint. Can both nations prioritize people over politics, or are we headed for disaster? World Decoders. The U.S.-Mexico border is a powder keg. 3,000 deaths, millions of migrants, and theories of a staged crisis paint a grim picture. Is this a war zone driven by cartels, or a manipulated chaos for control? The data shows a crisis, but the truth lies in questioning who benefits. What do you think? Real danger or political game? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this video to spark the conversation, and subscribe to stay ahead of the curve. The border's future is unfolding. Let's keep decoding the truth together.